Okay, we're continuing here in the Orchos Yosher in the chapter of TEFILLAH, and we're coming now to probably what in most shuls is the biggest challenge that has been going on for thousands of years in Klal Yisrael whenever there's been a minyan of people that are together. I have to say that bli ayin hara, this is not something that we have struggled with at Makor HaChaim. And the Mir Hashem will continue to stay that way even as we expand and we grow and more people come in from the streets. But it's something that we had in mind from the very beginning that we did not want to fall into the trap of. And we're going to speak about the prohibition of speaking in Shul and speaking during davening. I was once at a very large synagogue, and they had recently had like $1.5 million revamping campaign where they just remodeled the entire shul, and they did a fantastic job. It was beautiful. And I happened to be in the shul one day when it was just a few of the rabbanim and people, bigwigs in the shul. They were standing together, and one of them said, should we try, now that we remodeled the shul, now that we put on fresh paint and we made the place look different, should we try to make a push to the balabatim that we should stop talking in shul? So this shul is notorious. They have sections in the shul, so you can choose where you want to sit. Politics is over here, sports is over there, Lashon Hara is over here. Talk about the rabbi and his drushes, that's over there. And then there's the just because we talk in shul section, that's someplace else. So this one rabbi that was involved with the shul, he was like very serious and very earnest about it, that we have a chance, the shul is like revamping itself, everybody's seeing how new and fresh and everything looks. Let's try to give a push right now that people should stop talking in shul. So all of the other ones, without fail, who were standing there, they said, don't even bother, you know it's not going to help. So this, as we're going to see, is one of the greatest complications for a person that comes to shul, who can't keep their mouths quiet during davening, especially during certain points which are the ikr, the most important parts of tefillah. It's a very, very difficult thing for a person to get involved with talking in shul. He begins with these words, to speak devarim b'teilim, which are non-essential words, nonsensical words, waste of words. Unless, of course, you're speaking these things. It's for a mitzvah. You have to speak to somebody. It's a very important thing. Who is Sir Gamor? It is for sure, he says, it is an outright prohibition for a person to stand in shul and speak dvarim b'teilim. This is, by the way, in our generation, we have to be very careful. People pull out their phones in shul, and they just want to show their friend this cute little video that they have from the night before when the family was getting together. They want to show their children, grandchildren, whatever. Or they want to show something they saw on one of these great websites over here that's defining what the definition of morality and mankind and the world is all about. And you just pull out the phone, short little 2 minutes over there in shul, you're in the Beis HaKnesses. Beis HaKnesses, he said, the closest we're going to get to the Beis HaMikdash is in the Beis HaKnesses. And you pull out that phone, and there you are, broadcasting your party from the night before. So, Isser Gomor. Dvarim b'teilim. What shaykh is to davening? What connection to the shul? What connection to the kedusha of the Beis HaMidrash that we have? So therefore, he says, a person has to be very careful. Again, in the olden days, the worst you could do was open your mouth. But now our phones and our computers and our tablets, they can all speak for us in the Beis HaKnesses. So we have to be very, very careful. And he writes, it says in the Shulchan Aruch, look inside the Mishnah over there. I will save you from the white on your face coming at this point. So we'll save those words. Take a look inside if you'd like to. Especially during the time of davening. So he's telling one thing to walk in the Beis HaKnesses and speak dvarim b'teilim, to say things that have no shaykhis, no connection at all to the makom of kedusha that we are in right now. That's one prohibition. But even worse than that is if a person is in the middle of davening Or yet even worse, in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz, the middle of the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, and they begin speaking during that time, as he says in the Shulchan Aruch, the Gadol Avaynu Minasai, the sin is too great to bear for a person who does such a thing. So he's quoting over here the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says like this. It says the following. This is in Siman Kuf Chav Dalid, and it's Sif Kat and Zayin. He says, "Lo yasiach sichas chulim b'shas shel yachsiv b'chayzeh atfilah." A person should not be schmoozing at the time that the Shliach Tzibor is repeating the Shemona Esrei. V'im sach, if he does talk, hu chayte is a sinner. The gadol avaynim minasai, and the sin that he has done by talking in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz is too great to bear. V'gorim by, and you're allowed to yell at this person to quiet him down. There's the only place I think they say that in Shulchan Aruch that if you see someone doing the wrong thing, you're allowed to yell at them to tell them to stop. But over here, a person talks in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz, so the Mishnah Berurah writes over here the following idea. Oy la'anoshim shemeisichem beis hatfilah. Woe to those who talk during the time of davening. Ki ra'inu kama beis hakneses nechru b'shul avay zeh. We've seen so many shuls that were destroyed as a result of this sin. V'yesh l'manais anoshim yedum la'ashkich hazeh. And you should appoint a shusher in every shul that will walk around and shush people up because they shouldn't be talking in shul. Now, of course, it's better if you just have a shul where people don't talk. They appreciate the beauty of tefillah. They appreciate that someone's standing up in the front. They are doing the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, and we're trying to give the proper cover over here. But if it would be such a place where people are talking, somebody should be a policeman who should go around and get people to Beis HaKnesses, Kedusha, Shechina, davening to Hashem. And then he writes like Ukriyas HaTorah, V'Kadish U'Makayimais Shemavoyer B'Shulchan Aruch Shasa B'Divor. And when it's time for the reading of the Torah, that's the only good thing about the Kiddush Club. At least if you go to the Kiddush Club, maybe you miss out on hearing the Parsha of the week. You miss out on the Haftarah, but at least you're not the Chayte who's standing in Shul and he's talking in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah and the Haftarah. So therefore, I guess we'll say that's the benefit of a Kiddush Club. But of course, it's always better to wait till the real Kiddush at the end. Now, then he says, and other places of Kedusha and davening, she'asar b'dibur, where you're not allowed to talk at all. She'ein shum heter b'zeh. There's no heter. There's no heter in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah to be schmoozing with your neighbor. There's no heter in the middle of Kaddish to be talking to somebody else. There's no heter in the middle of Kedusha to be talking. V'chalila lezalzel b'zeh, and chas v'chalila, God forbid that a person should be disgraceful in these areas. Mishum shehar be'anashim mezalzel b'zeh, many people are disgraceful in this area. Ki avheim asidim litin asadin, in the future, says Rav Chaim Kanievsky, can be guaranteed they'll have to give an accounting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the shame that we made inside the Beis HaKnesses. Yes, the halach, it's not always easy to hear. It's not always the most pleasant thing right before a Maariv, or maybe you're going home to have dinner tonight. However, it's the emes, it's the truth. This is not the basketball courts. There's not a movie theater. It's not a mall. It is not a park bench over here. This is a Beis HaKnesses. And a Beis HaKnesses has Kedusha's Beis HaKnesses, a special Kedusha that is here. And just as when a person would have walked into the Beis HaMikdash, they would have done it in a certain way with a kovid rush, with a seriousness, understanding where they were walking. The same thing is when we walk into the Beis HaKnesses, it has to be done with seriousness, with understanding, with an appreciation of the opportunity that we have to speak to the Ribbono Shel Olam. And if we use our words to speak to Hashem, but not to speak Dvarim B'Telim, and not to speak during the place that we shouldn't, then, as we mentioned many times before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He doesn't turn back one's prayers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts those tefillahs, and in Yitz Hashem, He should answer all of the tefillahs of our hearts, Be'ez Hashem. To be continued. Do not fear.